Again, var Yosef, because Yosef means to be, to multiply and to increase, meaning again and again and again. That's why we get the Hebrew word here, var Yosef. And it said, David gathered together all the chosen men of Israel, 30,000. But in the Hebrew, that word there, instead of 1,000, is actually elef, meaning a unit. Elef meaning a unit. And a unit would consist of about 10 soldiers. So if you had 30 units, how many soldiers would you have? You would have about 300. But if you had 30 units of 10 soldiers, we can see this is where we get the Hebrew word that comes in here, elef, meaning a unit. And David arose in chapter 2, and verse 2, and went with all the people that were with him from Baal of Yehudah. Now this is 9 miles north of present-day Beth Shemesh, to bring up the ark of Elohim. Now in Numbers, Bamidbar, chapter 14, verse 15, isn't there instruction given to us? How do you carry the ark? You have to carry the ark in a particular manner. You can't handle it. You can't presume how to handle the ark. You can't act with the sin of presumption. There are specific instructions given by Yahweh in Bamidbar, Numbers chapter 14, in how to handle that ark. And that ark, whose name is called by the name of Yahweh Sevoth, or Yahweh of hosts. And we see that so many times in the Tanakh. Yahweh Sevoth, Yahweh of hosts. What does it really mean? It refers to Yahweh's majesty. Yahweh's majesty over the heavenly armies with which he fights human enemies. The hosts are the sun, the moon, the stars, and the atmospheric powers. Yahweh of hosts. So in the book of Gilead, will you see a disturbance with the atmospheric powers? When Yahweh brings judgment down on the earth? Yes, that is Yahweh Sevoth, the one who is the host over the armies of heaven, the host over the sun, the moon, the stars, and the atmospheric powers that he will use to judge the nations in Gilead. That is our Yahweh. And what is the ark in reality? It's Yahweh's chariot of war. It's Yahweh's chariot of war. That is what we shall see. And we go forth, and he says in verse 3, and they set the ark of Elohim upon a new cart. Now this was a foreign custom of the Philistines. They had made a cart, and now they're picking up the worship custom of the nations and doing likewise. That is a big problem. It's called syncretism. You're taking something from a foreign pagan custom, and now you're bringing it in, and you're trying to put a kosher stamp of approval. And we'll talk about that later, kosher stamps, because that's going to tie in with Vayikra chapter 11 when we talk about meat. But no, you can't kosher stamp foreign worship practices of carrying an ark. No, because that violates the instruction of Bamidbar chapter 14. It was a new cart. A new cart in the Hebrew, ha'agala kadasha. It means actually the Hebrew word there is associated with wheels. Remember Yehezkel had a vision of wheels? Cyclical wheels. Meaning, are you going to make new cycles of things? Is there a new cycle now of how we're going to do things? A new cycle of how we're going to carry the ark? No. The same cycles of Yahweh will go through and are supposed to go through from generation to generation to generation. If somebody comes along with a new thing, be careful. Because the cycles of Yahweh are from Shabbat to Shabbat, from Rosh Hodesh, from Moed to Moed. The cycles are continuous. There is no new cart or new thing or new way to approach. It's the same way. Just like the Brit Hadashah, it's not new. I say it is reused. Cycles. Cyclical. associated with wheels. Are there going to be new cycles in how you'll carry the ark? Is there going to be a new cycle that you can now approach differently? No, because if you do, then you will expect to receive the same judgment as Adaf and Navihu. There's no new cycles. Verse 3, and they set the ark upon a new cart and brought it out of the Bayit of Avinadav. And we see then that Avinadav was in the Givat and Uzzah and Achio. Now these two names, Uzzah and Achio, are a combination of two words. They're a combination of Abihu and Nadab. Isn't that interesting? Those two names right here in verse 3 are a combination of the two words Abihu and Nadab, the two names, from Vayikra chapter 10. And we're going to see the same kind of judgment go forth on Uzzah. Again, you're going to see two sons directly connected to Abihu and Nadab. Uz means strength and power, and Echod means brother. Isn't that interesting? Let's continue on in verse 4. And they brought it out of the Bayit of Avinadav that was in Givat, accompanying the ark of Elohim, and Echod went before the ark. And David and all Beit Israel played and danced before Yahweh on all kinds of instruments made of fir wood, even on harps, and on psalteries, and on timbrels, and on cornets, and on cymbals. And they came to Nachon's threshing floor. And Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of Elohim, and took hold of it, for the ox had broken loose from the harness. And the anger of Yahweh was lit against Uzzah. There's our thematic link with Vayikra chapter 10. Not only a similar judgment, but also the similarities within the very, very names, relating back to Abihu and Nadab. Uzzah and Echod, verse 3, a combination of two words right there. We see Abihu and Nadab. Excuse me, I actually got my combination of two words. Abihu and Nadab are from Avinadav. A correction, if you will allow me. In verse 3, we have the name Avinadav. Avinadav. Now, from Avinadav, that is the combination of two words. Abihu and Nadab. That makes better sense. Excuse me. Thank you. I appreciate your patience. But from Uzzah and Echod, those, again, are the two sons that are directly associated and connected to Abihu and Nadab. Does that make sense? Are you tracking? Thank you. Okay, let's continue on. Verse 6. And when they came to Nachshon's threshing floor, Uzzah put forth his hand to the ark of Elohim and took hold of it. For the ox had broken loose from the harness. There are many, many reasons and many things that the sages will say, but at the end of the day, he did something that he was not supposed to do. He stumbled, brought forth, and touched the ark. We're not to hold on to anything that is not ordained by Yahweh. That's the truth. We've got to let go of the stuff that is not ordained by Yahweh. And it's hard for us, because maybe we've been doing it for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. But if it's not ordained by Yahweh, it's time to let it go. Because if you grab hold of something that is not ordained by Yahweh, look what happens. So many customs that have been syncretized, brought in by religion, are not ordained by Yahweh, and we need to let them go. But Uzzah lacked confidence. He lacked confidence in the efficacy of divine help and transgressed priestly privilege. That's what he did. He transgressed the priestly privilege. That's what he did. And who did he meet? He met Yahweh Metatron, the guardian of Israel, who brought forth judgment. The guardian, the zealous guardian over the ark. And judgment was brought forth. Not different at all from what we saw in the Torah. Let's continue on in verse 8. David was displeased because Yahweh had made a breach upon Uzzah, and he called the name of that place Peretz Uzzah to this day. And David was afraid of Yahweh that day and said, how shall the ark of Yahweh come to me? So David would not remove the ark of Yahweh to him into the city of David, but David carried it into the house, the Bait of Oved Edom,